and Investment. This is being chaired by Dr. Rakesh Mohan Joshi, who is Vice Chancellor of Indian Institute of Foreign Trade. Dr. Joshi is a respected scholar, author, and expert in management with significant international experience. Professor Joshi has authored popular books published by Oxford University Press and served as editor of Foreign Trade Review. He has received international awards from London Business School for his case studies published by European Case Clearing House. He has also worked with the multilateral organizations like World Bank and the Asian Development Bank. So I hand over to you, sir, for conducting the session.
uh, Distinguished panel members, indeed we are privileged to have such a great panel where Professor Mahendra Lama is there, Dr. Roshee is there, and the distinguished, very distinguished experts, economist Professor Charan Singh ji. Thank you so much for inviting us for this wonderful panel. And I'm sure that as the minister also talked about and other people talked about, ultimately in the today's economic era, it comes to the improvement of the economy, and then what we talk as the bilateral trade and investment. And as Dr. Singh has already talked about that, I had a very wonderful speaker before me, Mr. Uddhav, Professor Uddhav, who was talking about, in a very articulatic fashion, that it is the people to people contact which talks about rather than the complex mathematical calculation which goes into the trade. When it comes to the Nepal's trade, all of us know that we historically, culturally enjoy centuries old cultural relationship, and that cannot be broken even by politics. But the trade and investment, I think, and the trust. So I am not very sure how to talk about the trust deficit over the years and over the last decade has not been, at least the stagnant. Either it goes up and down, and so that is extremely important. When it comes to the Nepal India trade, one thing which all of us know is that, and I think the speakers in the first session talked about, is the trade deficit between of Nepal with India, because 1 into 10 what has been talked about, that India exports more and Nepal exports less, but at the same time India is the largest investor in Nepal, much ahead of China. India is also the largest sender of the tourists in Nepal, not China. But the goods from China are coming to Nepal, and goods from China are coming to Nepal is not only Nepal, but even the America is worried about Chinese good. The whole of the Europe is worried about the Chinese good. And two things is that number one is to protect the economy, to protect the MSMEs, the small industries, and I think the biggest threat to the world to the industries, especially MSMEs, is coming from the cheap imports. And let me not mince my word, that cheap imports coming from a country which produces or subsidize artificially in production of its goods at the exorbitantly, and the pricing. Say you produce any good in America, Europe, or even India, there is a country which produces 1/10 of the price, 1/6 of the price, and then you cannot compete. And if you open your border, your industry is hit, but more who are hit is those who are the MSMEs. And Nepal, in view of the industrialization, as you are aware of, say in India, say cement industry is a big industry, but cement industry in Nepal is very different than the cement industry in India. All of you know that, and therefore anything which is you know you go to the market in Kathmandu, you buy anything. It is very similar to the Times Square in New York. In Times Square, New York, 80% of the 90% of the merchandise is not made in America. 60 to 70% of the merchandise is made in a country with which everybody is afraid of. So I think that in the trade, in the planning, that I think we need to look into. How to, but lot of economists are there. They are presented. There are a lot of trade theories. Trade theories also progressed, like the whole world progressed. New things have come. But I think more you change, the same you become. And if you don't trust me, we had a new trade theory. We had a comparative advantage. This, that. Multi-billion dollar is spent in the research, but ultimately, and the international trade, I'm so happy that you are discussing today, but say 4 months before it was very dull, but now, the stage has come wherein, the Donald Trump's coming has sent ripples into the trade world across the world. The whole concept of WTO, ambassador was, so nice to hear from him that 85, the SAR came, it did not work, but the realities have changed. If you look into the reality, after 85, 95 came. When 95 came, WTO came. WTO came, there was one concept, Kaushik Saab is an expert on WTO who works very closely with us. WTO ke andar, it was, the MFN, most favored nation. Most favored is not favoring a nation, but not to discriminate between. So, you can have one tariff against other. But now I think it is not only, India is nowhere, but the protection is the, is the order of the day. In Britain, they came from Brexit because they did not want to join EU. Then Germany, how the election was fought. France, how the election was fought. And ultimately, Donald Trump says that, he'll increase duty from 10 to 20%, 25 to you. Canada, 25 to Mexico. And the next day, the Trudeau went to Washington to seek him. He said no subsidy to Canada. And do you know the one of the most strong FTA was the NAFTA. It no more exists. So we need to change with the reality. How the election was fought in Germany, gone. So I think it is not only the India called Swadeshi, but India, I think our Prime Minister Modi has always said that Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Ayo nijha paraveti ganana laghu chetasam udar charita nam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. But on the same forum, Donald Trump said that America first. He said 65% on China, because China is crippling the American industry. And they said if you join hands with China and threat American dollar, 100% on you. Now you tell me where is MFN? You tell me where is free trade? And the whole world spent billions of dollars in researching free trade. Anyway, we also do. We have a center for WTO studies. And on 8th to 10th, we are holding a program, I think, in Kathmandu itself. So, all these things. So, anyway, let me go to the panelists. So, let's talk of the problem, how to balance the trade, number one. How to find out synergies between India and Nepal so that both countries benefit and some of the trade theories prevail, rather than the protectionistic new world order which has come. Kaushik Saab knows 25 years before, we were doing a lot of training program for people across the world. The new trade order. New trade order was, the uniform rule. Dispute settlement body of the WTO is dysfunctional. Doha round has so far not been concluded. So all of you know about it. So, we have a distinguished panelist. Professor Mahendra Lama is an expert on, on the eastern side of South Asia. I think you will not get a better person who knows about Nepal, India, Bhutan, and whole of the northeastern state. I knew him for a long time when he was in JNU. Then he was a vice chancellor in that Sikkim University, the founder vice chancellor. So I think he is one. So welcome. And then we have got young researcher Roshee. She is with the Kathmandu University. So let's listen to both of them. I will request that 10 to 12 minutes you try to complete it. Professor Lama.
Well, thank you very much. You know, in the last 75 years, we are quite clear that Nepal and India would be the most integrated economic systems, cultural systems, and to a large extent, even social systems. And of course, cultural ecology wise, they are the most integrated. And in the last 75 years, we have also realized that whatever had to happen between India and Nepal on economic exchanges, it has to a large extent happened. You have unilateral free trade agreement. You have several trading points. You have access to Calcutta and Visakhapatnam ports, and through India to Mongla, Chittagong, and now Matarbari deep sea port also. Then you have a situation where you have a very robust payment system between India and Nepal with an informal tagging, pegging of Indian rupees and the Nepalese rupees. And of course, you have borderland infrastructures done in a very, very sound manner. But all these issues have been done or have been identified. And so the situation today is we must transform the relationship. And when I was a member of the prime ministers, two prime ministers set of the Nepal India Eminent Persons Group, and we always talked about how to transform the relationship between India and Nepal. And when you talk about transforming the relationship, we should not really hint on issues which are of very incremental or marginal nature. Therefore, what we are saying is let's have some transformative matrices, because in the next 30 years, 40 years, India would transform itself into a developed market economy. And what would happen to Nepal? So my presentation today is basically would basically address itself to what are these transformative matrices India and Nepal could undertake to enhance the relationship. The first, of course, is in 1960, when we did the trade treaty between India and Nepal, the then policymakers were quite conscious of the fact that it would be ultimately a common market. And if you go by stages of economic integrations, you start with a preferential trading arrangement, then you go to free trade, then you go to customs union, then you go to a common market, and finally a kind of economic union like what you have in Europe. So I think it's very, very important for us to move and jump to common market, because smaller issues have started blocking the trade relationship. Issues related to tariff hopping, that is bringing third countries goods to Nepal and sending to India, including vegetable oils, acrylic fiber, to a large extent even many other things, including what you call it, the Chinese garlic. Therefore, the first proposition today is about how to transform the trade relationship. And in doing that, I think one of the key issues would be to concentrate on the eastern frontier of Nepal, right? We are saying that. Look at, for example, we just completed a major study for the Ministry of External Affairs on connectivity on the eastern South Asia, and we found that the entire out of the 8 billion trade, Bengal and Northeast would contribute hardly about exactly about 18% of the total trade. And Northeast, if you remove Bengal from that, Northeast India and Nepal's interactions would be hardly not even 1%. Whereas Government of India wants to make the Northeast as a new growth pole of India. The government of India is deeply concentrating on Act-East policy, Look-East policy, including doing massive connectivity exercises in that entire belt. So what we are saying is Nepal has to now really get back to what it says to the eastern frontiers. And that's a very, very prolific and that's a very, very flourishing frontier. The second transformative project, which is brought about by three fundamental changes, is of course the power trading. The three fundamental changes, and we have been watching this for the entire South Asian countries. The first fundamental change is the major strategic change in the thinking of Government of India. Government of India, now India would be not only a generator, would be a kind of transmission system provider, but India would be a major transit point for electricity to travel, to be evacuated and travel from Nepal, from Bhutan, to go to other parts of South Asia, including Bangladesh, and to a large extent Myanmar, and possibly in future Pakistan and Afghanistan. So what we are saying, many studies have been done. We have done studies with with the Economic Research Institute of ASEAN, Japan Institute of Electricity, the Electricity Grow, all kinds of institutes. And all these institutes studies which we have carried out jointly do indicate that Nepal and India together could make a major power pool, like the North Power Pool or Southern African Power Pool or Canada, US Power Pool kind of arrangement, and bring all the electricity from these places and sell it to what? Sell it to the neighboring countries. And it can be done because we already have done a major cross-border electricity trade guidelines in 2021, which allows all these countries to come together. I think that can be done in a big way. And you look at the progress. Almost from zero revenue, Nepal would get almost $169 million in 23-24. So what is the model? Bhutan is a model. The important thing is, for the first time, these countries have realized that first, everybody used to think that first electricity should be generated, then transmission line will come into existence. But we are now, in the last 15 years, we have done just the opposite. We did the Birampur, Veramara national grid to national grid integrations with Bangladesh and India. So we did the generation lines and we started doing the electricity flows later on. So first the the transmission lines would start coming together. My third transformative matrix would be to really go for new economic corridors. Do you get it? By now, we are quite clear that that traditional intersections or interconnections have its limitations. So it has to be trilateral, quadrilateral, right? So one of the provisions which we are trying to really strike in South Asia is, why not Nepal and Bhutan look towards south and move from the northeast and interconnect with the trilateral highway that is between India, Myanmar, and Thailand, and use this highway, because otherwise Nepal has to use all the seaports to go to the Southeast and East Asian countries. So you use this highway. So this is going to be a major project, and to a large extent, it would attract Nepal and Bhutan towards the south and de-attract them towards the north, which generally we would like to have. The second major project is, of course, the quadrilateral arrangement at Fulbari, where Nepal would come, Bhutan would come, Bangladesh and India would interact. This was done in 1997. I also happened to be in the Prime Minister's delegations to Nepal, Prime Minister Gujral, and we did this Fulbari corridor. Today it's a reality, right? So what we have to do today is a place known as Banglaband, which is hardly 12, 13 kilometers from Siliguri and would be about 27 kilometers from the Nepalese borders. So they will all meet and go to Bangladesh. Bangladeshis will come. So this is going to be one of the most vibrant economic corridors. Tourism, education, health, all kinds of services can happen, and Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, India can get access to the ports that side, and India could even think of an alternative to Chicken Neck through this route because it gives them access to the northeast states. So therefore, this is the second major economic corridor we are trying to do. The third major economic corridor which we are now trying to do is integrating West Sikkim with the eastern part of Nepal. And you'll be surprised, the eastern part of Nepal would be 18% of the Nepalese districts, 16% of population, Nepal's population, and almost 18% of the geographical area of Nepal. It's a huge market interconnections. Can we do this? We already have Patibara. This is known as Chua Vanjang route. And there is a tri-junctions between Sandakphu of Darjeeling and Patibara of Nepal and Upadhyay of Sikkim. In fact, we have started doing the major road connections that side. Only we started 2 years back, and it is likely to happen. And if this happens, then you have 4 major highways: the Mechi Highway, the Koshi Highway, Sagarmatha Highway, Mahendra Highway, then the Puspalal Highway, all initiated. And how this would interconnect Nepal, the eastern part of Nepal, with the neighboring countries and the western part of Nepal is of tremendous value. My last point, Chairman Sir, is investment part of it. On investment sector also, as you rightly said, 33% of the FDI to Nepal is from India, almost $641 million today also, and we have 150 Indian joint ventures, right? So are we satisfied with this? What we are saying is get into the business of transforming into a much, much larger matrix, because you have a market this side, you have a market that side, and you have players coming from different parts of India, right? So what we are saying is do this in a big way. And in order to do this in a big way, you must have an exclusive India-Nepal investment, agreement. It has been started, bilateral investment treaty model has been started. I think this has to be cleansed, and India could play a major, major role. 2 sectors where India and Nepal really cooperate in the investment sector is, many of us do not realize the fact today, as far as Nepalese foreign exchange earning baskets are concerned, one, of course, is $10 billion. It gets about 30% of its GDP from remittances by the Nepalese who have gone abroad. But the second important thing in the foreign exchange basket is almost $800 million in 23-24 coming from the IT sector. It's a massive growth, much higher than tourism, much higher than power sector. And that's going to change the entire, the basket of goods and services. In IT sector, who will do what is the question, right? You have an estimated 1.5 million Nepalese dependent on or employed in the IT sector there. There are several reports. But Nepalese IT sector, as per the last report produced in 22, 1/5 of all the IT sector workers did not have any degree. Yet it is doing so well. So the skills, right? You have very many organizations like Fuse Machines, Incessant, Rainy Studios, Leapfrogs. I was reading their profile and it's fascinating, right? So what India could do is to really invest in a big way in the IT sector there. And make Nepal as an entrepot to provide IT facilities, because there is a new generations of young entrepreneurs, well-trained entrepreneurs in Nepal that can be really mobilized and brought to the international market because they are well connected and they have several other linkages. In the second, in the investment front, the second critical issue is, you have Gelifu project of Bhutan coming up in the eastern frontier with Assam. You have a railway line and the king's very famous project known as Mindfulness City in Gelifu, just about 53 kilometers from Kokrajhar of Assam, from Kokrajhar of Assam, the borderland area to inside. Government of India in the last 15, 20 years have heavily invested in the northeast region of India. I happen to head at the moment a committee to prepare the vision document of Northeast region India for Northeast region of India for 2047. And you'll be surprised to note that 10% of all the ministries' budgets or departments' budgets of the national governments are set aside under the what you call it non-lapsable pull-up fund for Northeast. So they have their own state government's budget, regular budget on top of this. So 2023, we are just counting Government of India invested 123,000 crore in various projects. It's a massive money, right? Massive. And all the top players, the multilateral peers, World Bank to Asian Development Bank, even AIIB and UNDP and bilateral agencies like JICA have reached there. So the second thing what Government of India is doing is, in order to inspire the investors, Government of India has done projects like NEIIPP, then NEIDS. Now we have a project like Unnati for 10 years that whoever wants to go to the Northeast and invest, these are the facilities. You will get income tax relief. You get this kind of capital subsidies on all kinds of things, on markets, on this, right? So what we are saying is this gives the Nepalese entrepreneurs a great opportunity to go to the Northeast and invest. Like we are encouraging Japanese to come. Yeah, I'm concluding. And we are telling the Nepalese, you come invest in whatever ways you want, whether in horticulture or floriculture or any kinds of business you do this. And this would bring what you call it cross-border investment in a kind of a really to a bilateral junctions and change the entire matrix of India-Nepal investment relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Lama. You highlighted a very important point. Government of India is, it was, I think, at 2002. So, I also conducted a study across all 8 states independently, the northeastern, especially for the export potential and the export strategy for each of the states. And, IFT as an institute is willing to do the training and research, especially establishing the institutional infrastructure for export promotion the way we have done in India. The province has an export hub, the district has an export hub for Nepal as well, which we were discussing with the with the honorable minister. So I think that is later, but we are also conducting a program in Nepal also on 10th of this, 8th to 10th. We have got a very distinguished speaker with us, Shri Pradyumna Prasad Upadhyay. He is a joint secretary with the Investment Board Nepal, and as we have discussed that the investment is very important. So let's listen from him. That please.
Thank you, Chair. Namaskar to everybody. The time is running, so I will be in very brief about the matters related to this panel, that is trade and investment between India and Nepal. First of all, I would like to thank all the people who are listening here. We got the presentation in the morning regarding that Vikasit Bharat. Vikasit Bharat is not enough. We need something to add into it. Vikasit Bharat Varsha is we needed, because if you want to be the leader, you have to take all the neighbors together so that you can push further. So one thing I request the policymakers here to if you need a big push, you have to go with your neighbors as well. One thing. The second thing that some years ago in the Parliament of Nepal, our Narendra Modi ji, the Prime Minister of India, he mentioned a formula that is HIT, H-I-T. HIT means H, highways, I, information ways, and transmission ways. So in these three sectors, Nepal and India can collaborate for the investment in private sector or in the public-private partnership. We have very good policies regarding the public-private partnership subject, and we have a good policy of welcoming the investment from all over the world. So if we focus on these three things, that will be enough. Otherwise, there are so many other sectors like in tourism. Previously, we were Hindu Rajya, Hindu state, and now it is secular state. And this South Asian region is mostly, there are so many temples. In Nepal, you see Muktinath, Pashupatinath, Janakpur Dham, Buddha Nilakantha, Lumbini, Tilora Kot, and he also mentioned one to Pathivara. There are so many pilgrimage places where the Indian side can make the investments in hotels, cable cars, roads. So these are the other areas where the investment from India can also be attracted. In recent days, we all know that the world is going global. The boundaries will be blurred very soon. You will not see any boundary between any of the countries. Global village. So you are listening the news from US that they are marching for Moon and Mars. Elon Musk. Likewise, in the days to come, everything will be in virtual. So virtual platforms we can get if we try to find out the virtual places to get investment, then it will be another good opportunity for both of the countries. In this trade and investment data, if we see, Nepal consumes more than 60% of India's exports. It means we are heavily dependent on India's products. At the same time, Nepal is 17th trade market for India. 17th. That is larger than France, Brazil, Korea, and Japan as well, the data shows. If we see about the FDI approvals in India, from India to Nepal, it is 514 billion Nepalese rupees. We approved the FDI from India. But the trend is, recently the trend is being changed, and China is leading now. China is leading ahead of India, and India is becoming second FDI providing country after China. I belong to investment board, so we mainly deal with the big projects like more than 6 billion Nepalese rupees is our threshold. And in our portfolio, there are mainly five projects that are from India. That is, we already listened. 900 megawatt Arun third project is there. 669 lower Arun project is now going to be groundbreaking scenario is there. After a few months, it will be started. And there is West Seti and SR6 in the western part of Nepal. It is under review and the DPR is finalized. Upper Karnali, the GMR, which built here so many projects, is the leader in developing the Upper Karnali project. And Dabur Nepal is also reinvesting for better production. So these are some of the things that our relations are there. We need some kind of policy reforms in days to come. One is a joint meeting between Nepalese investors and Indian investors, and the Nepalese policymakers and Indian policymakers is also, I think, is needed to get better results in investment scenario. One thing, that joint commission or maybe any kind of mechanism is needed. Another one is I recently visited Cambodia and I found that Japan has developed a sage. Completely the Japanese companies are inside that sage. So that kind of example can also be from the part of India to Nepal is also can be done. These we don't need any kind of big things. We just easing of people flow from one country to another, easing the ways like opening of bank accounts, opening of financial transactions is easily, and opening of the telecommunications, more better way, then we can get the benefits from both sides. So these are some of the things that I wish to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Pradyumna Sam. Thank you so much. And I think he lighted, very important issues that, facilitating the trade and the easing the, investment between the two countries. And he also highlighted that, the India, the Chinese investment is coming now, and they are likely to take over, and his data says that they have already taken over the Indian investment there. But I think if you look into the multiple things, the India continue to have a much strong bond with Nepal, because if you look into a lot of, Nepalese students are coming to India, Indian students are going there, lot of business across Nepal are, people of the Indian origin, anyway they are Nepalese now, are associated with the Nepalese business, you are aware of this. And then you talk of the, the tourism, the pilgrimage tourism, we keep on conducting a lot of official program, but with my family also I've been to Nepal only for a pilgrimage. I went to Mansa Devi, that, the big ropeway, and then Pokhara, the tourism capital. I think it is amazing. And I also do have a lot of friends in Nepal who are my classmates when they studied in India. So this relationship, I am not sure that we share it with China or any other country. But I think all these things, the government of India is very sensitive on that. And, you are having a very distinguished ambassadors. Who talked about it. So I think all these things are there. We also share something very common at the multilateral forums, which I think China cannot do, only India can do. One is that, for export from Nepal, the big thing is, number one, they are talking of sustainability, sustainable export, green export, and the European Union has come out with, the carbon border, adjustment mechanism in which if it goes into that the carbon credit tariff, it works out to 35% tariff from products coming from India and China, which make our product incompetitive in the international market. And I am very sure a lot of Nepalese product are plantation product, especially the southwestern part and southeastern part where a lot of tea is produced. I am sure you know about it that half of the Darjeeling tea which goes is made in China, and Darjeeling was a first GI which was taken by India. 10 years before, we used to produce 12 million kg of Darjeeling tea. Now it is only 6 kg. I am told a lot of Nepalese, tea get, mixed in that. But when people talk of, the earlier speaker talked about that, smuggling, that, he was talking of that supari smuggling and all that. So, I did a project on that, this place is Myanmar. So they said that earlier we were smugglers because your policy did not allow. Now we are exporter because your policy allowed. So he says that our task does not change, it is only you change. Because the person who is exporting supari from Nepal to India or India to Nepal is doing the same for decades. Only, your legislation made them a smuggler or a trader. So all these things need to be looked into. I think there are a lot of things, I cannot talk about it. Another thing, America is very much worried about child labor use in Nepal. But is not worried about the bombs they are dropping into the countries and the billions of dollars that they spend on financing wars. I don't want to. So these are the common issues with India and Nepal, and there is a possibility of a greater cooperation on fighting all these issues at the multilateral forum. Thank you so much. We have got a wonderful speaker, Roshee, Professor Roshee. She's at Kathmandu University. And, I was told that she writes a lot of columns for the newspapers. Let's listen to her.
Thank you, Professor, Chairperson. I'm indeed honored to join this esteemed panelists. In the interest of time, of course, I'll have to build on what my previous speakers have said and the discussion that has been going since the morning. Just to highlight on a couple of the aspects that has been already highlighted. Much before delving into the topic, what I think in the context of Nepal and India, trade complementarity is just not about financial gains. It's just not about making money and profit, but rather it's more about, because both the countries, we share common and a mutual market for both goods and services, be it with food or apparels, or education, health, and tourism. A little bit has already been highlighted, and we have a separate panel for tourism. So what I feel is, of course, Nepal-India collaboration is one of the excellent example of South-South cooperation, given the fact that South Asia is one of the least integrated bloc in the region, with inter-regional trade accounting for less than 5%. So my previous speakers have also highlighted aspects like hydro, tourism, ICT, agro. I'd like to touch upon some ideas on agriculture, and I would also like to emphasize two basic products, and these are based on my sort of empirical studies, having gone and visited some of these places. So in the context of Nepal, I would like to talk about agriculture, and which are more of a niche market in the context of Nepal, and I was trying to those data in the context of India as well, and I've covered this in one of my opinion pieces, which you can refer to later. So there's a district in Nepal called Badura, which has already been designated as an olive zone. It is widely also popular and it's also domesticated. Both wild and domestic versions of olive oil are being farmed at the moment. What I was also comparing in the context of India is Rajasthan has been doing the same with the support of the government, and I think Nepal can draw inspiration because they took help of the Israeli technology to build on their indigenous knowledge, and government has actually prioritized the use of olive, and therefore after 8 years of experimentation and learning with the technology, they were able to come out with their own version of the seeds of olive. What I'm trying to emphasize is both countries having had the potential for this niche crop can together work together. The technology transfer can happen from India to Nepal for this particular project. Earlier, we did have a support from the Iranian government in terms of the research in this particular district of Nepal, but after which the commercial farming has not initiated much. So we can look into those kind of opportunities. Probably it might attract some Indian investors to look into this particular aspect. The other one crop is about hemp. Hemp, yes, of course, the whole world is going about veganism. Hemp-based products are getting popularity in India as well. And I've seen research, and as research suggests, data suggests, Uttarakhand was the first district in India to be authorized to legally cultivate hemp farming to start Uttarakhand in 2018, that was. So the market potential is estimated to be somewhere around USD 80 to 100 million dollars. So therefore, out of which India has been able to kind of only realize some 10 million USD potential. So, and given the fact again, hemp farming is also gaining prominence in Nepal, different kinds of variants talk about skincare or any other kinds of products that form out of hemp products. So again, both of these countries can probably collaborate and come up with some kind of joint technology and see how the potential can be realized. And Nepal can definitely share or export the raw materials so that with the help of the Indian technology, we can come up with different variants of the hemp products, starting with milk protein and other kinds of medical supplements as well. The other part in the agriculture itself, as I was reading, and I met a agri-entrepreneur just a couple of days before, and he was suggesting how the Indian policy of that does not authorize to cut forest for next 5 years. They've been a little stringent on this. So the plywood manufacturers and exporters of Nepal are gaining from that. The data also suggests that last year itself, 2023, 2.96 billion Nepali rupee of plywood was exported to India, and plywood together with veneer was accounted for almost close to 5 billion Nepali rupee, and that's exported from the Kakarvitta border. On the ICT part, I know I have to be brief because I'm coming in between your lunch. So this on the ICT part, which my previous speakers have already highlighted, the ICT export potential for Nepal, not just in India but across the world, has been valued at 515 million USD. So that's last year data, and that's an increase of 64% from the previous year. So I think, of course, that will be a major attraction for the Indian investor, given the fact that in our last budget, this year budget, 23-24, the minimum threshold amount has been withdrawn. So that could be another potential avenues of collaboration. We've discussed enough about digital payments, so we need to ensure that seamless transaction is going to be allowed across both the countries. Also, because it's going to aid tourism, we've had close to 3.2 lakhs Indian tourists in the last in this particular year, in 2023. If we were to allow this seamless transaction digital payment, that would help us increase the number of tourists. I myself have interacted with Indian tourists who come to Muktinath. A lot of them come for religious tourism. So they were very overjoyed for the fact that they didn't have to carry cash anymore, but they're not the same with Indian tourists. So when we come, we still struggle. So I think it's on the part of the Nepali government and our central bank to look into this aspect. On the aspect of the challenges, I just want to highlight that we've talked about the potential, but some of the challenges exist in terms of the infrastructure because in the borders, of course, the integrated checkposts have begun in Birgunj, Nepalgunj to begin with, but those have to be better equipped in terms of the fact that we need better cold warehouses, we need cold storage, and we need testing facilities. And also that would also help get rid of the non-tariff barriers that we have at the moment. Apart from that, as an academic and the fact that I teach marketing and courses, what I feel is marketing as in labeling, packaging and branding of agri-commodities have been a bigger challenge for Nepal. A lot of our Nepali tea is exported to India, and we're told it's also sometimes rebranded as Darjeeling tea. That's a different discussion altogether, but that's something, if we would get support from the Indian side, we would do really well. With that, I wish my quick case right now, and we can discuss further if time permits, or over the informal discussion after lunch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roshee, for such a wonderful, presentation, and you brought out a very important aspect of that export of agriculture products from Nepal. The things that you covered was one was hemp, one was the first one was olive. So all those products, but I think you can, Nepal has got a much broader area to export horticulture products, fruits and vegetables, and all other agriculture product. Only thing is that some research is required, wherein the quality of the produce is to be improved, and then it's a value addition is required. Nepal is a amazing country wherein you can market all your horticulture product as an organic product. And I'll give you an opportunity with India. You can, balance of trade can happen only with agriculture. Do you know India imports more vegetables than we export? And we import more fruits than we export. And Nepal can fulfill that gap. So that is, I think, an amazing opportunity that you can do this on the, value addition. And, the logistics is required from Sagarmatha to Sagar. Sagarmatha is Everest in Nepal. From Sagarmatha to Sagar, you need a very efficient cold chain, and that the logistics chain is absolutely required. You talked about the Indian government's policy of cutting forest, but I think I am sure that you are aware of that the European Union has brought out a new legislation of EU deforestation, and the whole of our world is worried, especially the developing countries. There are products that EU does not produce, but they consume only. Say coffee. No coffee is produced in America, no coffee is produced in EU, but they put deforestation. Now all these plantation in Nepal, India, like Vietnam, we have got another countries like Ghana, Colombia. It is deforestation. Largest deforestation has taken place in America, not in India. You know it. I don't want to talk about that. Agriculture is very dirty. I don't want to talk about it. Because agriculture, the labor was free of cost. And centuries, the labor were transported from Africa and whole of Southeast Asia to America and Europe in the conditions that it's difficult for me to tell, but you know it. And therefore, their agriculture was, competitive. Now the European agriculture is not competitive, and they are putting all these carbon credit tax, carbon tax. Now you are putting the deforestation. Deforestation was to be implemented in December 24 itself. But somehow it got. I was involved in a massive research project on EU deforestation for plantation crops, the tea and coffee. Wherein we have got small producer, even coffee 2 hectare, 5 hectare, small producer, and therefore its implementation cost is going to increase. The competitiveness in the market. So I wish that you join hands with India and the similar countries on these issues, so that we can fight collectively with a market which gives us a better price, which is Europe and other developing countries, other developed countries. So that give us a better price. So secret of success for Nepal's agro export lies in research, value addition, supply chain management, finding good market, and more than that, join hands with the like-minded countries where our interests converge, so that we should be able to fight the non-tariff barriers, which we call in economic terms, where our products are getting stuck, or we are having threat to get stuck. So with that, so united we stand and divided we fall. I think, he gave a great statement that it is not only India, we need to talk about Bharatvarsh. And what is very important is, I think, there is an index, I think, you must be knowing, we call it a failed country index. So country failing is a contiguous phenomena. If your next country is failing, then you also fail. India, unfortunately, is surrounded by the countries which are challenging. We are having Pakistan on one hand, we are having Bangladesh on other hand. We face problem in Sri Lanka on other hand, and Myanmar, you know better, so I don't want to talk. So Nepal, is an oasis in this whole, our neighborhood, and I wish that both countries come together and we work so that I think, the mutually will progress. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
So, sir, thank you very much. Now we again close this session with small gift. Um, okay.
Thank you very much.
फोटो फोटो नहीं है ठीक है